Good morning. How's everybody doing? My name is Weiner. I'm the co-founder and president of Spexi Homes. I'll be your moderator today for a one-person panel with Bryan from OliverIQ. We're going to be talking about smart home technology and AI to improve the experience of smart homes. What we want to discuss today is essentially what is AI a little bit. More importantly, how does AI impact the smart home landscape? We're going to talk about some tools that are available through a particular product, and we'll talk about how AI is going to become ubiquitous through the tech projects that you work on in the coming days, weeks, months, and years. It's some pretty exciting stuff. It's a new landscape. It's almost a little bit scary because of the promise and the possibilities. And we've got an expert with us to help us navigate those waters and give you a little bit of a glimpse into what the future holds for smart home and AI. So with that, Bryan, you want to introduce yourself and get us started?
My name is Bryan Koutsky, sales director for OliverIQ. About 30 years of experience in the smart home space, and we'll get into it in the presentation. But yeah, to Sean's point, AI is a subject that's probably overused, or the word phrase of AI. So we're going to dive into how does it work within the home and how does it affect builders today. So we'll go through a presentation, a little background on OliverIQ. Enjoy your breakfast. We'll have a lot of questions and comments made, so we're here to help. So OliverIQ, who are we? We come from a deep background. So founding members, both our founders, this is their 6th company that they've started, mostly in the tech home space. Previously, a company, IBON, you may or may not know of, but if you traveled at all and plugged a Ethernet cable into a little box that sat on the desk, that was IBON. And Will and Eric, who are seated in the chairs, founded that company 30 years ago now. After that, we went off and did a venture in Control4 that was in the smart home space, mostly for high-end, top 5% net income earners typically is the space that played in. Took the company public in 2013, sold it shortly after that, and it's been sold again now to Residio. I spent 14 years there running sales for North America, and with our buying groups and our builder involvement there. Verizon, our CFO, ran a bunch of Verizon locations across the country. And so this slide is really about, we tend to know where the landmines are in the smart home space, and we think there's a huge opportunity as we look forward in the AI space and how smart home is really kind of accelerated. First, you have to look at, what is a smart home? And builders, you guys are familiar. You've been kind of thrown into this space. At first, if I remember, 10 years ago, it was, we don't want to touch it. We'll leave it to our integrator. Customers started to ask about it. You thought, all right, I got to get into this space. And so we ask the question often, what is a smart home? The devices that are here today on this slide are all smart devices. We would argue that it's not necessarily a smart home. You're leaving customers with an app, with folder of apps that are all individually controlled devices. And so there's a lot of confusion in what smart home is. I would say that you sell smart devices if this is what you're doing. You're not selling an intelligent home. And we'll talk about what that means going forward. What we do know is that the connected home is filled with lots of opportunity. If you think back to when Control4, we started that company in 2003, iPhone didn't exist. There weren't smart devices. Ring didn't exist. A lot of the smart devices that you see today weren't even thought of back then. But what homeowners are doing today is they're bringing their own devices from a previous home, or they're asking for you to put technology into their home or have your integrators put technology in the home. And that leaves us with a large opportunity, whether it's IP security cameras on the doors, EV chargers now with electric vehicles, Nest thermostats, refrigerators, appliances. Everything today is either being connected with a hardwire, Ethernet, or Wi-Fi. And that is a huge opportunity for us as we look at the home today. Home automation, this is what your customers and your home buyers are really caring about. They care about not necessarily all the cameras that you're going to put in or the smart devices you're putting in, but they care about things like security. They want to know that, I can press a button at night and know my house is secure, I know my garage door is closed, I know the security is armed, and that everything is secure in the home. They want protection from flood damage. A lot of your customers probably have a secondary home. And I live in Wisconsin, and I know in the north, pipes can freeze. And so if a pipe bursts and you find out in the spring, there's a lot of damage there. But if we can control that through a smart device and an intelligent home, we can prevent those floods from happening. Flood actually is the #1 insurance claim by insurance providers today. More than fire, more than burglary, flood is a big issue. And so we can do those things through home automation, turning main valves off in a home. Comfort and convenience. Having an all-off button at night instead of having to go upstairs or downstairs to turn extra lights off. Just being able to walk to my master bedroom, hit a button and have everything from audio, video, lights, everything turn off in the house is what I'm looking for as a home buyer. Entertainment, I want to be able to figure out one remote control to operate everything or one app to operate everything. When I press pause in my house, my lights come up 25%. When I press play, they dim back down. That's automation. That's my remote control talking to my lighting system in my home. And then efficiency, energy efficiency. With the push of EV vehicles and smart thermostats in the home, what does that mean to a customer? They just want to know, am I saving on my energy bill, and what does that look like today? With the connected home and filled with opportunity, it presents a ton of challenges that are out there today. So if you think about in a home setting, you may be selling, let's say, a security system in the home, and that arms the security system. But if the 5-year-old is playing with an IP camera and turning it towards where the dog's in the backyard, it may not be positioned in the right way. And so at a touch of a button, does your security system talk to your IP cameras? As I mentioned, my lights talk to my entertainment system. The challenge that we have is that all these devices working together presents a challenge from the standpoint that they're all on different operating systems. So you might have, and I don't want to get too technical, but if you look at the home automation space, there's Wi-Fi, there's Bluetooth, there's Z-Wave, there's Zigbee, there's Thread, and now there's this new Matter technology that is out there today. And devices oftentimes don't work together. So if you go back to that device slide that I had and the app of folders, that's the problem today for customers. And so as we look at the landscape, who are we talking to? Well, it used to be that you were just talking to the top 5% that I talked about earlier, but today we're actually talking to everybody. Doesn't matter, male, female, demographic, everybody is thriving to have smart devices in their home. They become more reachable for customers, all demographic, all geographies, worldwide. The business is growing at an astronomical rate. The amount of smart devices back when I was at Control 4 and we were talking about in 2005, 2006, again, the iPhone didn't exist. Smart devices didn't exist. Now, everybody can get them and they're affordable. And so that presents a lot of opportunity for home builders, and it presents a lot of opportunity for the AI as we look forward. We drill down farther into this, looking beyond just the demographics. We can look at what devices are important to people today. There's tons of personal assistant devices. You think of Google, you think of Alexa, and those devices that are speakers and they're talking point to point. They miss the mark. If you look at Amazon's reports, they're losing lots of money by these devices. And we feel, as experts in this business, we feel that the reason they're doing that is because they haven't figured out how to get the customer to take all of those devices and connect them for a seamless integration in the home. They're using the devices for alarm clocks and for weather, and they might play music on a point-to-point or room-by-room situation. Entertainment, security, management, these numbers have not really changed. The only one that's changed is the personal assistant as speakers have become more prevalent in the homes. But all of these categories are a growing number, and they grow every year, but the percentages are staying relatively the same on where they're at. If we look at top devices owned, smart programmable thermostat, Nest really hit a home run when they put Nest out on the market. But if I told you that 80% of all Nest thermostats are professionally installed, that would tell you that you need some sort of assistance in order to get that in. Nest thermostat's literally a template, colored wires, color coding, you replace your thermostat. It's a pretty simple install, but most people want an expert to put that in. IP cameras, I think, have really grown. Smart door locks, these items are becoming more readily available for customers today, and so we're seeing a huge growth there. But that brings up a big question about the IT department. So if you think about an office space, so you go to the office and you're talking to your project managers and you're talking to everybody, most people have 2.5 devices in their office, but yet you've hired an IT person for that office space. When you get to the home, you have 20 plus devices in the home on average, and yet you're left to figure it out on your own or call somebody to have them help you with it. And we think that that's a broken model, and part of the reason why smart home adoption has not grown to the masses and stayed up in that upper echelon. If we break it down further, there's really 3 ways to get a smart home today. You can get high-end custom install, that's the life that we played in many years. Then there's this smart home security space that's kind of in the middle with Ring and Vivint and SimpliSafe and ADT that have come out to market. And then there's the DIY space. And each of them have pros and cons in how they're approaching the market today. The pro, if you think about the pro, it's high-end, it's luxury. Not many people can afford it. But just like many people can't afford it, many integrators, the last thing they want to do is be called for a $100 light switch that's malfunctioned in a home and have to roll a truck out to replace that $100 light switch. They're looking for that next big $20,000, $30,000 job. It's just part of the business. It's kind of the hidden secret in that space. Security is all about the monitoring and selling you a system, and you're going to pay for it for 3-4 years. And most people now are gotten to the point where they're getting smarter around their surveillance, and they don't want to pay for a monitored service necessarily. And then there's the DIY space that we touched on with the Amazon and Google, where you have devices that aren't really being connected. You're kind of left on your own. Their interoperability between the radios doesn't work well. And so you may think that you get, a Lutron Caseta light switch and that it'll work with another device in your home, like a Hue lighting, and the two won't cross over and talk to each other. And so those are challenges that homeowners face today, especially in the high volume and production building case, where this might be a first-time home buyer, it might be in a move-up category, but really there's challenges out there. But they all want the conveniences that we talked about in those 6 different things, whether it's comfort, convenience, entertainment, security, et cetera.
So Bryan, we're not just talking about devices that would necessarily be installed by the builder during the construction process. Right. This is an evolution. So you're talking about devices that could be purchased pre-construction, during construction, and post-construction and installed as a DIY product as well, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and it's a good point, Sean. And a lot of these customers you may find as a home builder that they're saying, I already have a Ring doorbell. Can you put my Ring doorbell in? And then if you're talking to an integrator and they have, let's say, a Control4 system or Savant system or Crestron, and the last thing that integrator wants is for them to walk in with a Ring doorbell and say, can you install this and make it work with my system? It becomes a challenge. You've lived the life, it's a challenge. And so really, what is this all about and how do we fix it? If you look at OliverIQ, the way that we fix it is we take all the pros from the custom install channel, security offering, and the DIY space, and we give it to you through a complete smart home. What does that mean? So we have an affordable hub that sits in the home that has all of the radios that I talked about earlier, Wi-Fi, Bluetooth, Z-Wave, Zigbee, Thread, Matter, all in this hub. It's a $100 hub, and you're going to pay, customers will pay roughly $10 a month. And it's a subscription service. For builders, we recognize the last thing you want is RMR. Stop. Don't even talk to me, Bryan. What we've done is we've packaged it in and we said, okay, we believe pretty heavily in this. So we've taken the year, added it to our hub, and we will put it out there for 1 year for you. We want to make you the homeowner, or the home builder, the hero. We don't want you to receive the phone calls. We have technologists all over the country, service model, whether it's your integrator or whether you want us to bring somebody to the table down a national level that can install the system for you, and they'll handle those calls. But more importantly, as we shift towards an AI model, I'll get into how that has even changed over the last 3 to 4 months in our world. For us, when we look at smart home and automation, you need 3 real compelling things. You need an app that's a single app. So we talked about smart devices and having 12 apps in the folder and independent control of those devices. What if one app you could open up and talk to the leading manufacturer brands that are out there today and brought them together and made it real easy for you to be able to create experiences? We're going to show you that. Second is the hub that I talked about. You need to have a platform that is a software that talks and interoperates with the various different devices that you're installing or you're selling to your clients or you're including in packages or they're bringing to the home. And you don't want to receive that question about, will this work with that, and vice versa. And so we need a platform that can talk and give the customer the confidence that the system will interoperate together. And then last, we need a back-end support. So if you call, I mentioned Amazon earlier. So Amazon owns Alexa, they own Ecobee, they own Ring. And if you had those 3 products in your home, they really don't work well together, even though it's one company. But if you called in for support to troubleshoot one of those devices, and that device was found not to be the issue, they will have you call support to Ecobee or to Ring or to Alexa, which means customer, if you put yourself in that situation, is on the phone, they're waiting on hold, they get a live body, they're talking to somebody, not the right answer, call this number, and you're right back in the queue and in the process all over again. That's a frustration for home buyers today. It's a frustration for all users today. And so we have a back-end support that allows us to either use AI, as we'll talk about in a minute, or a live human to be able to interact with the customer, ask for permission to be able to see into their phone, and be able to work with them on the various different apps that are in that one folder that they're no longer using in order to troubleshoot the system to make sure that it's working properly for them.
Well, before we go any further,
yeah.
Excuse me. It seems like there's a interoperability conversation to be had. Mm-hmm. So it's not so much about a device like a Ring doorbell or a smart thermostat that's not working. That does happen, but it's probably less frequent than the other issue, which is I was sold this promise that when I open my garage door, my kitchen light will turn on. Mm-hmm. Or when someone rings my front doorbell, it's going to alert me in the master bedroom that something happened at the front door. And those things aren't happening. So I think that's the ubiquitous service call that we get, which is, how do I make these things talk to one another and get what I thought I was getting when I bought these devices? Yeah, and Sean, I think it's deeper than that, right? What my preferences are when I open my garage door and I want my kitchen light to turn on, I also want ESPN to turn on. My wife doesn't want ESPN to turn on. She might want the news to turn on, or she might want some music playlists to turn on. So we're getting into preferences, and are my kids home? Did I know that my kids got home safely? All those things become in a connected web of interoperability and being able to really enhance the lifestyle that the customer has. Home buyers today, all they want is to make their lives easier. And all they've heard for years is technology is very complicated. You as a builder have kind of stayed away from it for a long time, thinking, I don't want to get involved in it because I never get a service call on a granite countertop upgrade, right? But I get a call when it's technology. And so you're right, it's about interoperability, it's about stability in the home, it's about creating experiences for the home buyer, and then how does AI play into all of that? And it's a challenge that we have, but in our 30 years, we think we've cracked the code on how to get this all to work. Well, let me tee up the conversation a little bit too, because I think you're going to make the point. I want to get in front of that with an example. One of my closest friends is a home builder, luxury custom home builder, and he built his own home. And I helped him through some design and some installation, and he bought a pretty basic security system, but it's connected to alarm.com. And his cameras, including his front doorbell camera, has a Sky Bell. He's got some alarm.com cameras around the perimeter of the house. And he's got a teenage son who's sort of becoming a teenager at this point. And his friends are coming to the house. And he called me and he said, hey, listen, I want to put a Ring camera in the bar to make sure that he and his friends aren't in there when I'm not there. And I said, Greg, you don't have a Ring camera. You've got a Sky Bell door camera. You've got alarm.com cameras. He said, I'm just going to buy a Ring camera and put it in there. And I kept explaining, well, if you do that, you have a secondary app and another problem to deal with. And all these things are the same price. I mean, it's not one more expensive than the other, but him understanding what brands he has and what works together creates this almost impossible situation without having an expert on your side to share that information with.
Well, in the market is feeding into that, right? You have in the security world that you mentioned, and in the high-end world, you have a walled garden. And then there's all these DIY products that are out there, that smart device, smart home, everybody is targeting smart home. If you look at a Chamberlain ad right now, Chamberlain is targeting smart home. When you drill down to it, they have a garage door that opens with MyQ. In fact, Amazon does key deliveries. Walmart will now put groceries in your refrigerator. And it's a cool technology, but they're targeting smart home. And what they've extended to is cameras in the garage, but really that's where they stop. So how are they controlling lighting? How are they controlling my TVs turning off? How are they controlling my landscape light turning on at sunset? It's really a smart device that's extended. And so it's on us to allow those devices to work together in ways that the homeowner wants to work. Because to your point about the Ring camera, they wanted the Ring camera. Ring's a great product. It really is. It just presents challenges as you look at integrating into other devices with the Ring camera. Because what he's telling you is that, I want to see the kids when they're home, make sure no shenanigans are going on downstairs. And to your point, you now have a secondary app, you get second notifications, and it becomes a little bit of an issue in a security world. Ring makes a security system. They make it because they're in their walled garden. And so it becomes a real issue.
So AI is going to fix all this for us, right?
AI, I think, will get us a long way there. There's still work to be done, but I hope to show you where we're at, where we're headed with it. And I think the audience will come away with a clearer understanding that they can get there. So in order to do that with the app, you need to work with leading manufacturers. So these are just some of the manufacturers that we work with today. But I'll highlight Hunter Douglas, and if you look at Wiz or Yale or Lutron, for example, what does that mean for my home buyer? Well, at night, when I press my goodnight button as I'm headed into my master bedroom, I want my shades to drop, or maybe they drop at sunset based on the clock, time of day. I want my door to lock, so I want my Yale door lock to lock. I want all my lights to turn off, and some of my lights in my house are Leviton, and some of them are Philips Hue, and some of them are Lutron, and my kids bought these little table, Philips Hue lamps. All of that's controllable through one app. You get a live screenshot telling you what devices are on, as you see there, along with temperature control, thermostat, humidity, etc., whether your doors are open, closed, whatever. The other cool thing with automation is that a wake-up scene. A lot of us use our phone and maybe have a wake-up alarm set, for every day of the week, or you have an alarm clock still. That's cool. Phones have allowed us to get, instead of having that ugly, flashing lights at us, they've allowed us to really enhance the value of a wake-up. But what if, yesterday I'm on an early flight at 5 a.m. and it's not my normal wake-up scene? My wake-up scene is that I want my lights to turn on in the bathroom. I want the TV to turn on in the living room because I'm going to go make some coffee. I'm going to come back into the bathroom. All that to happen off of a wake-up alarm. With OliverIQ, you can do that. With AI, it'll really enhance the ability to be able to do that. So we talked a lot about OliverIQ, but how do we leverage the use of AI? And so what I'm going to show you today is how we currently are leveraging the AI, and we'll talk about where AI is headed and where we will be taking it in the near future. So we have a chat bot called Ollie, and Ollie's main purpose is to really talk through technical support on OliverIQ. This is where we do believe a walled garden is important. For example, I can ask Ollie things that I'll show you in a minute, but one thing I can't ask Ollie is who's going to win the election last night. It'll say that I'm not privy to political. I'm here to talk about your OliverIQ system. Voice command on all systems. So the voice command and where that's going to change, you may have heard of a company called Josh AI. They actually started down this path and still do today. But the part of the problem with Alexa Google is that they're point to point. So you can ask Google to turn on my living room lights. If it's connected, it'll turn on the living room lights. Where AI is headed is, hey, Ollie, turn on my lights in the living room, play Breaking Bad in the media room, and turn on my lights in the master bedroom. All in one command, talking like humans talk versus a point-to-point. And then voice programming of experiences. So we might say things like, hey, Ollie, I want you to do this, 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 and this, Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, because I know that I'm getting home late because my kid's got a football game. What we do in the AI portion is we use two models. We use an open AI and we use a large language learning model. Those may or may not mean anything to you, but I'll explain them. So open AI is just what you've been hearing about, us being able to talk to systems, be able to learn from the system. What the large language learning model is it's constantly learning based on what's happening. And so, for example, if I'm talking to Ollie and Ollie can't answer a question, I can give it a frown face. And if I give it a frown face and then say, that didn't answer the question or that wasn't exactly correct, Ollie is learning so that way that question can be answered for the next person that's asking it automatically in the background. So it's constantly improving. We believe that we'll get 80% of user support right out of the gate with what we've done over the last 6 months on Ollie. And I'll show you a little bit about what that is. We use it primarily for tech support today. So I mentioned about how you may have an integrator or we can bring a national partner to you today. What if we could eliminate that process or narrow that process down to only when something was truly defective or broken in the home? So in other words, you may have an integrator that rolls a truck out to a home to replace batteries in a thermostat. That's a wasted truck roll. But if Ollie can solve that through tech support, it saves the integrator money, it saves the national partner money if you're using a national partner, and it helps enhance the value to the home buyer because they're not inconvenienced with a service call that they have to wait for somebody to come to fix their product.
So this isn't just a chat bot answering FAQs from customers who come in and now use voice instead of a text message, correct?
Not at all, not at all. This is a live view of your system, knowing what's going on with your system, helping you update if you want to integrate other products to it. And we'll show some screenshots of that coming up here. And I think it'll really be a wow factor for home builders today. The other cool thing with this Ollie chatbot and the large language learning model is it will use any language. So in California here, we have a large Spanish-speaking population. I can ask it in my native language, and it'll respond back in a native language. By entering all the data, it'll go out and grab everything. We were talking Portuguese to it, we're talking Finnish to it, and it's amazing at its ability to be able to respond back in a native language. And if Ollie has low confidence in having correct answer, we'll suggest that the human call you, and that'll be your primary service provider. So here's just a couple of screenshots that I took of my personal home with OliverIQ in it. You can talk to Ollie, as I mentioned, similar to what Alexa, Google, or Siri do. It supports large languages, like I said, and it can handle complicated commands. So in this example on the left here, Ollie introduces itself, and I just said, can you give me a status of my system? And so it went out and it found that all of the system's status is online, and says everything's functioning properly. So then I ask about other devices, and it says most of your devices are online. My girl's bathroom was offline. This is a normal scenario in my house. So I have automated light switches, and the girls wanted colored light bulbs in their bathroom. And so they have hue light bulbs in the over the vanity. And they oftentimes will turn off the switch. And when they turn off the switch, Hue goes offline. And so if I'm in my app and I'm trying to open the Hue app and turn things on and off, I can't because the switch is actually off. And so it noticed here that those were offline. I asked to troubleshoot them, and it says to check the power supply. So I walked over and looked at it. Sure enough, they'd shut off the switch. So I turned the switch back on, and boom, they all came back online.
There's a fix for that, by the way.
There is a fix for that. And I know there's a fix for it, but for this purpose, I
Great example, though.
wanted to show the customer that it is a real world example of what happens. So what we're going to show you is a video. It's 4 minutes long. It's a live video from our office. It's not, vaporware. This is live and what's happening. So you're going to hear Todd Miller, our director of AI, talking to Ollie in the video. He's going to ask it various different things from a support mechanism on the system that he is working on. And he will take you through. This is available today. It's in our software. It's on our hub. So this is live. And then we'll talk next about experiences in future. Go ahead and play the video, please.
Ollie is OliverIQ's conversational multilingual AI assistant, helping you with questions about the OliverIQ app and anything you'd like to know about your smart home. In this video, I'll show you how Ollie can help answer specific questions about your system and help you troubleshoot any issues you might have. Ollie can respond in text or text and voice by selecting the speaker icon. I'll start by asking Ollie a few questions. I'll let you hear Ollie's voice for a moment, but we'll mute Ollie from time to time throughout the video so we aren't talking over each other. Can you give me a summary of all my devices and point out any potential issues?
Give me a second to look that up. Here is a summary of your devices. 1.
Ollie gives me a summary list of my devices and their status and found that my Philips bulb is offline, so I'll ask Ollie to help me troubleshoot it.
To troubleshoot the Philips Whiz Bulb 1 being off,
I'll skip troubleshooting for now and go to the next question. What lighting systems do you work with? I can see the list here, and I can see that there's a product I'm interested in learning more about, so I'll ask. Can you show me how to install a Leviton smart switch?
I'm getting that for you now. I can provide you with the steps to install a Leviton smart switch. Would you like to see the list?
Watch a video.
You can watch the install.
So I can click that link and I'll be taken to a browser page that opens the video in it and I can watch it. Or I can just ask Ollie for all the steps. Let's ask another question. Can you tell me how to create an experience that turns on my utility room light when I open my utility room door?
To create an experience that turns on your...
Ollie will give me the steps. I'll ask for all of them so you can see what they are. Can you give me all the steps?
Here are all the steps.
I can see all the steps I need to do to create this experience. Let's say I get an answer from Ollie that I don't find helpful or that I think is wrong. I can give feedback to Ollie to help train it to give better answers or to have a support person reach out to me. If I respond with negative feedback, I'm also offered the option to send an email to the Tier 1 support address that OliverIQ has on file for the company responsible for providing feedback. To do that, I select the frowny face, and then I input the feedback. I don't think this answer is right. I'll respond yes to Ollie, and Ollie will tell me that he's emailed support. We hope you enjoy interacting with Ollie for all your smart home questions. Remember, if you don't know how to do something, just ask Ollie because smart shouldn't be complicated.
So I'm going to ask the question I think everyone else is wondering.
Yeah.
I got 10 steps in my response from Ollie that I have to perform manually, and then are we looking at a time down the road that that's going to do it for me instead of having me go through those steps?
Yeah, in fact, that's where we're headed right now.
Awesome.
Yeah, but I think it's important to also point out, though, those steps. So imagine today in a non-AI environment, having to create that experience with multiple devices across multiple products and trying to figure out how they all can work together, right? And I think it's important to just go back to interoperability and the importance of that, which helps us get to the AI of being able to not only support and troubleshoot, but then take the next step. And that next step is creating those experiences. So today, you're right, Sean, it'll give you a list of all the steps. Regardless of the devices, it'll tell you step by step how to program that in your system. We today already do what we call ideas. And it's part of the experience overall, but an idea is us knowing the device type, what we call a proxy, and knowing the location, which we call spaces, in the environment. In other words, if I take a light, a Caseta light or a Philips light, and I put it on my front porch, OliverIQ will already pull up a tile that's in these two right sides here that will ask you and say, we noticed that you put a light switch on a front porch. Would you like that light switch to turn on and off sunset and sunrise? You simply click yes, and it's programmed based on your location and where you're at. And if you think through a programmer or an integrator's world in the high-end space, that's either somebody remotely logging into your system and programming it and charging you to do it. In the security world, it's the same thing. And in the DIY world, you're left to figure it out on your own. OliverIQ has taken the intelligence from our history and where we're going in the future to be able to identify certain things and be able to suggest based on what the customer wants for comfort and convenience and entertainment and all the other things we talked about earlier, to automatically create those experiences simply by saying yes. In the wake up experience, you literally will say, what time do you want it to turn on? And it'll give you a list of all your lighting devices and a list of all your audio and your video. What would you like it to do? Good night mode. I want my TV to turn off. I want my lights to turn off. I may want some, stairway lighting lit up at a lower 20% light level. I want my outside lights to turn on as part of my good night mode. Why do I duplicate a sunset mode and a good night mode? Well, someone came home and they tripped the light or they turned the light off on accident. The good night mode will put it back into the mode. So it's constantly looking at ideas based on the devices that are known. That's where we are today.
Are we reaching a point where it's going to start predicting our activities?
Yes. So the future of it is habits. So our system works, we ask you to sign in for location of where you're at in the home, or where your home's located. And we can define a radius based on what the user wants. So for example, we can do a 2-mile radius for at home, 50-mile radius means I'm on vacation. The home can go into a vacation mode automatically, turn lights on and off randomly throughout the night or throughout the day, looking as if it's home, because security system is only as good as the yard sign that's in the front yard. If your home looks livable and it looks like you're constantly in it, they're gonna go to the next house. Last thing they want is a confrontation. But it's learning the habits too in AI, meaning if I'm always turning my bathroom light on at 7 o'clock in the morning, AI will suggest that, hey, Brian, Monday through Friday at 7 a.m., you're turning this light on. Would you like it just to turn on? Yes, because it's knowing my habits. There's a fine line of creepiness and Big Brother watching me. And so what we've done with that is it all lives inside of the hub. None of the information is shared. We don't data pool. What we like to say is Amazon's where you go to shop, Google's where you go to search, OliverIQ is where you manage your home, and everything will sit within the home ecosystem. But yeah, you're gonna learn from AI a lot of not just experiences, habits, suggestions, and we think that AI is gonna be really an important matter in the home and in the connected home. And if you ask either Gemini or ChatGPT or any of those, what are the top 10 things that AI is going to do over the next 3 to 5 years? Home automation's in the top 5. And so it's here. as builders, we need to address it, and we need to make lives simpler, as Todd mentioned, in a complex world. It doesn't have to be complicated.
Well, let's spend some time talking about how, right? So I'm a home builder. This all sounds great. I know AI is coming. I want to get out in front of this curve. I want to be progressive. I want to think about my clients. I want to think about offering better solutions than my competitors. I want stuff that's reliable. I don't want phone calls. I don't want headaches. So what do I do? How do I start?
Well, we'll be in a booth. We can.
No, that's not the
definitely
right.
talk
That's not the answer I was going for. What's the best way to design something to start the process of upgrading? So we went from black and white to color TV when we went from independently operating devices 20 years ago to semi-smart devices that can somehow communicate together and start to build scenes. We're going from color to HD TV now, right? We're looking at AI, and actually we might be going to holograms because it's such a different application of this technology.
Yep.
How do I start down a path? How do I build a plan as a builder for doing this and offering it to my clients and market that to a homeowner and have them see the value in doing this?
Yeah, building a plan starts, just like designing a house, right? You've got to start with what does the foundation look like? If I was a builder today, I would be looking at something that allows me to cater, especially in high volume, cater to a larger audience, not shoehorn them in, and working with the homeowner and an integrator or a national service provider to build a plan about interoperability on devices that the home buyer is looking, just like they do in a selection process of countertops and cabinets and all those things. Technology is becoming one of those items. And so we have to talk about the interoperability side of it, otherwise it's a bad experience for the customer.
But I think we want to talk about the experiential part of it. We want to talk about what the experience is for the homeowner. And you mentioned, and I'm going to push back a little bit, you mentioned the walled garden, right? The sandbox that all these companies play in. And you, from what I've seen, play in that same, or in a sandbox that's similar. Yours might be expanding, but you still have devices that work with your product and devices that don't. So how do I make good decisions? How do I know what categories to pursue? Security, HVAC controls, indoor air quality controls, entertainment devices, music systems. How do I make those choices? How do I create a menu of options for my buyer that makes sense? And how do I know which AI applications are going to help improve the experience and which ones are coming and which ones might be vaporware?
So we believe that it's a complicated thing for a builder because your purchasing manager may not be the same purchasing manager, right? Your HVAC purchasing manager isn't your lighting purchasing manager in a lot of cases. And so it first starts inside with the builder, being able to talk about devices that can work together. I would approach it as experience-based versus device-based. How is my indoor air quality going to be used with a home buyer? But if you're talking about indoor air quality, that home buyer that's important to them is also important with lighting, right? How do I take my lighting? Most people don't know, but if you take a lighting device and you put it to 80% instead of 100%, the average human can't see the difference really, but it saves a lot of energy. And so it's talking about the things that can work together to get the home to work together, and being on the forefront for it. Interoperability is really key. The experiences that are specific to the home buyer, what's important to me is not important to you, is really where I would go with a home builder. And it's about future-proofing the house to get us to the next generation.
So I resist the temptation to talk about pre-wiring and future-proofing. I think all these things are offering promises that you're sort of kicking the can down the road a little bit. So in my eyes, we have a message we're trying to push to a consumer that's very difficult to explain. It's very difficult to demonstrate. I mean, we sat here and watched a video. We talked about it for going on an hour now, and I still don't feel like a consumer is going to invest that much time understanding how these interoperability issues actually function. So as a builder, I want to show this. I'm on board. I love what you're talking about. I love what you're doing. I still don't know how to do this in my space. I don't know how to demonstrate it in a model home. I don't know which products I need to buy. I don't know which products to recommend. I don't know where I can make money. I don't know where I can avoid pitfalls. How do I navigate these waters? Is there a process? Is there a person? Is there a software?
Yeah, so we offer a model home program that if you are putting OliverIQ in your homes, we will outfit your model home at no charge, no monthly fee, no charge for the product itself, for as long as that model is live, as long as you make it a standard in the home. We have worked with home builders on design centers, and so putting our product in the design studio and allowing things to interoperate together in a design center or selection area of the studio, that's worked well. Home buyers are, when I press my door lock and the lights turn off next to it, that is a compelling thing. It gets the conversation started on smart home and automation. That's where I would head with it. Is really, whether you're outfitting an entire model, it does a couple things. One, it protects the model. Lights are always on when the model's open. Lights turn off when the model's closed. Doors are locked, etc. Everything's working together. If you have agents, you know whether or not they're showing up on time and, to the models. But really the design selection side of it and outfitting it to experience it, that's what we're talking about is experiences. And in order for the home buyer to really understand it, builders need to invest a little bit to get those experiences to happen.
So I'm a sales rep and I'm sitting in the model home and I'm walking them through and showing the countertops and the flooring options and all the window and door options that we're offering as a home builder. What's the aha moment? What's the wow moment for that client when they see OliverIQ or an AI-based automation system installed, where the demonstration is taking place and the customer's like, you know what, this makes sense. Now I understand why I should have this particular product, why AI is important, why this is better than what I have in my current house, why this is something that makes it easier for me to grow with my home and my system and give me all those features. Because all these manufacturers promise a whole lot of stuff.
Yep.
Every product that you buy has all these features on this feature list, and I probably use 5%, 10% of them if I buy that product myself. So how do I maximize that experience?
Yeah, I think if you're walking somebody through a design studio or you're walking somebody through a model home and the agents, having automation happen. So as you're walking somebody through, maybe it's, even unassisted demos today, a lot of people are using QR codes and you don't even have an agent in place. So how does the customer experience that? Well, they experience it first, if you don't have an agent there, that you're scanning QR code, the door unlocks, right? That's an automation experience. But what about the door unlocks and then the lights turn on? Or I walk into a closet that's dark, I don't have to touch the switch, the motion sensor turns that light on. I walk out of it, a minute later, that motion sensor turns off, right? Those are experiences that the home buyer, you may or may not think that they're important, but they will look at it and go, that light just turned off, there's motion. With a sales agent, having the app on the phone, being able to control devices, we run into agents all the time where the TV might be too loud and trying to fumble to get it to turn off or get it to turn down, simply opening the app, turn it down, or turning a light on, or highlighting the countertop in a different way by using lighting and having different lights at different percentages could automate to sell more experiences in the home.
So can I use Ollie voice like I use Alexa or Google?
Today, no. You can use it from a support standpoint today. Over the next 3 to 6 months, yes, you will be able to. We envision for people to be able to communicate to Ollie, we call it Ollie everywhere. And so they can communicate to it via the phone, via the app, and hopefully in the future something else too that can't talk about because it's not a product today, but we anticipate people interacting with Ollie on a large scale, whether it's support, programming, or just speaking to it.
Because it feels like, at least in my brain, that there's a need or a want for a do-it-for-me solution where I can ask a digital assistant to do things that I want it to do, and it just happens. And whether it means building a scene, whether it means turning on a particular piece of music, whether it means turning on a light switch or checking the status of the system or calling for service or asking a question, that's all great. I think if I was building a model home and trying to sell homes from that model, the best possible demonstration would be for my sales agent or even the potential person touring the model to be able to tell this system to do those things in their own voice, in their own cadence, and have those things happen. So I know that one of the problems with early voice assistants was if I wanted to turn on the living room lights and I called it the family room by accident, that was a problem. Are we looking? Are we advancing beyond that, where it's starting to understand what I mean as opposed to what I said?
Yeah, absolutely we are. In fact, in the support model today, if you misspeak, Ollie will pick that up and move right through it. AI is changing, and voice integration is changing on a very large level. Like it's advanced a lot, and we'll be able to talk to it like you and I are having this conversation right now, and it'll be able to pick up. It'll be able to pick up on nuances. It'll be able to do things, even if I don't call it the right name, like family room or living room.
So the other big question that I have is about security. So, I work in the luxury space for 30 years. Most of my clients have significant security concerns, and a lot of that security surrounds privacy and information privacy. So now I'm not just speaking to a device that's recording my voice and answering questions and saving that data someplace. It's also got knowledge of everything that's installed in my house and how it's connected. So that's a little bit terrifying for me. If there's a security breach, now someone has access to all of my, not just my information, but where I live and what I've said, but what my security says, how to unlock my doors, how to turn on my lights. How do we work around that? How do we solve that problem, or at least alleviate that fear? Yeah,
so security, I mean, I could say anything right now, and you got to believe me in what I'm saying, but security is a very important part of OliverIQ. Our prior life, when we were going public with Control 4, that was topic of every investment meeting, right? Because at that time, everybody's heard the story about baby monitors and how that got breached, and people were talking in the rooms of the kids. That was happening right when we were going public at that point. And so security is always something that's been very important for Control 4, as it is for OliverIQ as well. Our data isn't shared, first off. That's a critical point of it. Ollie is stored locally on the controller itself. And so the data doesn't get out, and it's secured. And it is up to the user to have their username and password within the app. In fact, we feel so important on security. We're going to digress for a second, but when we're setting up a system in OliverIQ, one of the things that an installer needs to do is get the customer's Wi-Fi access, their password, and all of their usernames and passwords for every device that they have an app on in their smart home environment. That's that's commonplace for an integrator. And so you're handing it to who you think is a trusted person, human body, to do that. OliverIQ, what we do is we do a double OAuth where we don't even need the username and password. In fact, in our model where we have an assisted visit to the home, that installer never has your Wi-Fi password, never has your credentials, never has any of the security in your home at all, not your door lock, not the security system. And if they are scheduled to be there for a visit, they have their own version of the app, and it knows that that person is assigned to be there at that time. They're within the radius of that home, and so you start the visit, it'll unlock the door, disarm the security system, allow entry into the home, allow you to fix whatever it is if it's unassisted, no owner's not there and they've granted the permission to do that. And then when you go out of the house, you hit end visit, it arms the security system, it locks the doors. Any IP cameras that are in the system, it sends a video footage to the homeowner and to the service provider to protect both sides of it. We believe security is definitely a key important factor in making this a success. And we think that we've done it in a way that we won't compromise anybody's usernames, passwords, or footage from their video.
Cool. The other question I have before I turn it over to the group for questions, one of the biggest challenges I had I was a luxury integrator, and we did we did a fair share of high volume communities where we sold smaller systems, but they were still pretty sophisticated systems into these communities. And what would happen, it was different in the volume builders versus the luxury builders. If the luxury builder, we had the luxury of time. When the homeowner moved in, we had a week or so to work in the house, to customize things for that buyer, to set up their passwords and their Spotify accounts and the other things. in the production communities, or the high volume communities, we didn't have that luxury. We had to be done before the move-in date, before the settlement date. And there was typically not going to be an internet service provider's router on site, so there's no internet access to the house. So I don't have a router. I don't have these network devices connected. They may or may not be installed. There were no accounts set up for the users. There were no passwords set up for the users. If they had a Spotify account, I didn't know their username and password, nor did I want to, because that's not really my business to know that information. So we had this sort of configuration mess at the end where we had to send a technician out to meet with the homeowner with a list of, here's all the passwords we need, and they forgot their Apple ID, so they can't download the app, and we're there for 4 hours trying to recover their Apple ID. That was a long way to get to the question, but are there ways using AI to address these things and help with that sort of last mile of these installations of the product?
There definitely is. And by the way, I've lived that world. Yeah. Both from moving in as a home buyer to a spec home that had Ecobee, Lutron Caseta, Ring doorbell, and it was a mess trying to get the integrator over. And then after I left Control4, I spent 2 years in your world, high-end luxury space, top 5% earners in Wisconsin. And so I understand both sides of it. Yeah, there are advancements in AI. There's also advancements in the OliverIQ hub. By not needing the passwords and the user experience, and you saw the support for Ollie, the setup for the home buyer is much easier when they move in. And all the devices, when they communicate in the interoperability world of platforms, some devices are cloud controlled, and all their information sits in the cloud. Some devices are local. We deal on both ends of it. So obviously, if it's cloud-based, you're not going to have it set up prior to the move-in because the router's not installed. But we think with Ollie and the AI advancements, the setup process is much easier. And if the customer can't figure it out, they hit the frown face and say, I need help. And a live human can do it over the phone by requesting access to their phone and helping them set up the apps. And that's a 1 hour time limit. And you can, as a consumer, you can delete the customer or delete OliverIQ out of it anytime you want to. Okay. So again, going back to security.
So to put a little bow on it, then I guess what we're saying is that there is an opportunity for AI to fill the gaps, to take the difficult parts of this configuration setup, sales process, model home demonstration, and help us do a better job with that. I think it's evolving. I think that you might be on the bleeding edge, it sounds like, from other companies that are attempting to do these things. And I appreciate you taking the tip of the spear and getting the abuse at the beginning so the rest of us can benefit from that. With that said, we do have a couple minutes left. If there's any questions, we've got about 2 minutes for questions if anybody has any. And we answered everything.
That's crazy.
That's awesome.
Go ahead. So the process.
Let me repeat the question for the video. So what's the process of adding a new app?
So it's really easy. In OliverIQ, you had added what we call a device. And when you click on the plus button for adding a device, it pulls up all the manufacturers. And you simply click that manufacturer for a sign-in. It'll go out and do an OAuth. And so what that means is the customer might get a text message. They might get an email. They simply click on that without sharing it with the person that's doing the install. If it is a technology guy that's doing the install or lady that's doing the install. For a homeowner, it's simply add the device, sign into your device, and it'll add it to the system once you've done that OAuth. So as a homeowner, it's very easy to add the device, whether it's done through the AI support or whether it's done manually. It's very easy. Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up. So,
can you repeat the question for the
Yeah, so the question was, do we expect the list of manufacturers to grow? And the answer is yes. It's in our DNA. So when we were at Control4, different world because we were building, every single driver with IRs and RS-232 and IP. We had 15,000 drivers that we built over the years. OliverIQ is a relatively new company. We've been around for 4 years. Launched the product in October. We were pretty stealth up until about 60 days before CES a year ago, which was our coming out party, and we were talking to many, many manufacturers about integration with their systems, and it's in our core. We can write drivers for products relatively easy, and we think it's going to be pretty simple. There's also advantages with Matter that's coming out. Matter will simplify that to allow it looks at what device type it is versus the actual product itself. But every manufacturer's got their own little twist to how they want their drivers done. But yeah, we expect that to grow.
Thank you. All right, I think we're out of time. Thank you very much for attending. You'll meet your group leaders outside in the hallway. If you have any other questions that we didn't get to answer, and there's a QR code there for me with my contact info, and feel free to reach out by email, text, regular mail, UPS, however you want to do it. Thanks for coming. Appreciate it.
Thanks, everyone.